and welcome to the Toffee Blues, your source for all things Everton. And this is the player rating roundup. Just a few hours after Everton's 1-1 draw against Nottingham Forest. Of course, the search for a win still goes on. I think a lot of people thought this might be a day, after two defeats to start the season against Chelsea and Aston Villa. Nottingham Forest, newly promoted side, might have been the one to get the first win on the board. Sadly, wasn't the case. And it's the same issues really. I think we're still playing a formation that I don't really think suits the players we've got, or at the very least, we're still not accustomed to it yet, which is obviously going to take time. Obviously, we're still not at full strength. Like in particular, still not really having a striker with enough quality up front is really costing us, especially going forward. And I think today, especially once Rondon went off, we really just seemed to have no idea how to put the ball in the back of the net. And even before, really, we probably weren't creating as much as a team of our quality at home against a team like Nottingham Forest should have been creating. So, but yeah, we'll get into all of that. But going through each individual player, including obviously substitutes, who of course got more than half an hour. So I think could be going to be just a bit more harsher than a substitute who only comes on for like 15, 20 minutes or so. To have more than half an hour on the pitch, that is, I think that's fair game. That should be considered enough time to have a bit more of an impact. But yeah, starting with Jordan Pickford in goal, and I was weighing it up for this. I did originally have him kind of down as a 5. Upon reflection, I think that might have been a bit too harsh. Probably would have been a 5 without the goal. Obviously, he gets the assist finally. One of these long balls, trying to find one of our wingers who, of course, have no aerial presence whatsoever. It finally pays off. Really caught out the Nottingham Forest defence, and Damari Grey gets through, of course, and takes the goal really well. But we'll get into that later. But Pickford's, but judging by his very high standards again, he hasn't really started the season quite as well as nowhere near as well, in fact, as he finished the last one. Obviously, he was captain today as well. I think he has been captain each game so far this season, with obviously with Coleman out the side. Yeah, I mean, I feel a little bit sorry for him in terms of like his distribution. Obviously, Rondon wasn't really providing that focal point that I think we really need. That Calvert-Lewin usually provides, someone who can like win headers and flick them on and find a teammate. With for Pickford to go long and aim at. I think there was only a handful of times that one even got on the end of one of them. And obviously it was quite a windy day as well. It seems like I'm making excuses. I know. Don't get me wrong. I wasn't exactly pleased with his performance today, and I think there's no two ways of getting away with the fact that he was at fault for the goal. Parrying it away. We've seen. He's usually very good at this. I actually think it's one of the best qualities of him as a goalkeeper. He's usually very good at, once he makes a save, he can push it away from dangers, like pushing out or over, tipping over the bar, or whatever, or pushing it behind the post so that someone can't get on the end and score the rebound, like Brennan Johnson, of course, did. So yeah, I think without the assist, I would have given him a 5, but I think the assist just about bumped him up to a very average, 6. And by his own standards, he would have been getting the likes. He would have been getting 8 or 9s last season, I think. So yeah, I think that just about that shows really the level he's at. But moving on, and Nathan Patterson, who I've been really impressed with. He's got to be said. I think there really is a player in there. I'm really impressed with so far this season. He was quiet again today. I think sometimes he does kind of struggle to get into the game a bit. I think that kind of happens if you've got so many wingers on the pitch. And they are really focused on. It's really focused our tactic on getting the ball to them. We have our defenders usually playing it long, rather than really working out from the defence, kind of like we maybe a bit more used to. But I'd still give Patterson a 6. I think when he did get on the ball, he was very positive, and I think he caused the Nottingham Forest defence problems. Maybe his direct running on that, and I'm really a big fan of his attacking mentality. I still think he's. I still think he is still quite unpolished defensively, but it kind of reminds me of when Coleman first broke into the Everton side all those years ago, and we really saw his defensive side improve quite rapidly over the first few seasons. So hopefully Patterson could do similar, but I haven't really got too much to say on him, to be honest. Like I say, had a decent enough game, solid 6, I think. But moving on, Mason Holgate, I think was actually one of our better performances today. It seems crazy to say, out of those 3 defenders, you'd probably say he's the weakest, and yet I've said it before, and I think Holgate really seems to thrive alongside someone, someone who will talk to him, with 2 voices like Cody and Tarkovsky next to him, it must be really, he must really feel supported. And he worked really hard today. And he kept their strikers in check for most of the game, and chasing a lot of loose balls and that. And I think his tackling was very solid. And I'd give Mason Holgate a 7. I think I thought he was one of our best players today, and probably the best out of our defence. And like I say, he's always shown glimpses of quality, and yet, but not as regularly enough. And it does usually depend on who he's next to. I think probably the best performances we've seen from him was when we were starting Mina and Holgate as our 2 centre backs in 2019-20 when Carlo Ancelotti first became manager. And I think we're hopefully starting to see that Holgate a bit more now. And he really needs to step up with Mina and Godfrey out, and Michael Keane clearly not cutting it. Any more performances like this, and Godfrey will struggle to get back into the side. But moving on, like I've just mentioned him as well, Connor Cody. Hard one to judge, really. I've given him a 6. I think purely because he had a solid game, did some things well, maybe could have done some things a bit better. I remember once or twice, he maybe struggled to get the ball away by trying to make it too complicated and stuff like that. Little bits like that, but I can't really go too much into Connor Cody. He didn't have too much of a noticeable game, which you quite like from a defender. He usually suggests they haven't made many mistakes. So I'm just gonna have to give Cody a 6, really. And but speaking of a defender who did make a lot of mistakes, I'm pretty much all reserved in the first half. James Tarkovsky, I was baffled by what was going on with him in that first half. He's been such a cool head since he came in. Particularly in pre-season, people were really impressed by just how composed he was on the ball. And he was really solid against Chelsea. And yet today, first half, I don't know what was up with him. Didn't seem to be able to do the basics right whatsoever. Caught out with headers. Was getting beat by like on the ground as well. Players getting past him far too easily and stuff like that. And he improved in the second half. Don't get me wrong. He was particularly very good in the air. They once I'm going to butcher the name, but the Owani, I don't know how you pronounce his name. You know the one I mean. Their number 9 new striker they brought in, who scored against West Ham. Once they brought him off, they really kind of lacked that aerial threat up front, and James Tarkovsky was just able to win every header, really. So I still have to give him a 5 because his first half was genuinely that bad. Like, I would have taken him off at half time if I was Frank Lampard. Like, he was that bad. Like, he was like a liability every time Forest went forward, which is so crazy to see. And I'm hoping it's just a one-off, just an off day basically. But yeah, we shall see. I'll give him a 5. Could have given him lower without an improved second half performance. Mikalenko, again, a 6. Didn't really stand out too much. I thought he made some decent tackles. Had a couple of decent touches going forward, but wasn't really in the game too much. I think we kind of struggled to get our wing backs involved in this setup, which, based on how well Mikalenko was doing end of last season, does seem a bit of a waste. And you look at the potential Patterson seems to have going forward as well. I don't know. I'm definitely not convinced on the setup we've got at the moment. Lampard seems to really have a lot of faith in it, and obviously players are still getting used to it. I'm sure there's a lot of room for us all being proved wrong in a few weeks' time, but I just don't see it at the moment. So we shall see. But moving on to the midfield, a man who always has a lot of opinions about him from either side. Tom Davies. I thought he played well today. It's got to be said. I gave him a 6. But I will admit he did have a bit of an odd to game. Like there were times where he really looked very good and he had some really good touches. You know, you were getting past players, winning tackles strongly and stuff like that. And then there was other times where he was doing the basics all wrong, giving away cheap balls and stuff like that. Had a really inconsistent performance, which is why I can't give him any higher than a 6. But that being said, there's no way in hell he should have been taken off. Lampard definitely got his substitutes wrong today, which we'll get into once we get into them at the end, individually. But yeah, Davis was working really well with Iwobi, if you ask me, and I think replacing him with Onana, especially at that point in the game, before the hour mark. Don't know if it was to do with fitness or not, but I mean, Lampard's been banging on about how Onana's not fit. So, if you want to build up his sharpness, bring him on later in the game. Don't just bring him on just for the sake of it. We'll get into Onana in a bit, but yeah, Davis, I wouldn't have taken him off. I thought he was playing well and was one of the better players on the pitch. But like I say, was still there's still bits that his critics will very easily be able to pick up and say, oh, he's crap and all that, which is frustrating because I think he's going to be given a run in the team regardless, just because the lack of midfield options. But I think he warrants it as well. But obviously, there'll be a lot of people, I'm sure, in the comments disagreeing with me on that one. But surely someone who the whole fan must be united upon now is Alex Iwobi. Best player on the field again today for us. It's just a given at this point, isn't it? He's our best player every single week. Ran the show today. I say it every single week, but he needs to be given more freedom. He needs another midfield. That's what I mean. This setup doesn't work for me, particularly because of that two-man midfield. Because Iwobi and Davis, like I say, both played well today, and yet at times they were still getting overrun. The setup, mate, it's just not flexible enough for us. They get bypassed when we're attacking, and oppositions find it too easy to break down when we're defending. It's really frustrating because Iwobi pushed further forwards would be 10 times more effective than he is now, and he's effective enough as it is. The only thing that isn't there is he doesn't feel comfortable enough pushing forward because it leaves Davis exposed. It just leaves one man in midfield if the attack breaks down. So put that extra man in midfield. I'm hoping, obviously we're still looking to get another centre mid in, whether it be a Gay or someone else. Obviously, talks are a bit. There's a lot of rumours kind of around the deals like off at the moment the last few days in terms of Gay. But obviously once Onana's fully fit, hopefully he can be the one, or Alan. He was on the bench today. Just get that extra man in midfield and play 4 at the back. It seems crazy to me that we're persevering with this two-man midfield, which was really costing us last season, and I think it's costing us again. I do genuinely think that's where the main issues lie. But yeah, Alex Iwobi, sticking with him, 7 again. I can't give him any more higher than that just because we weren't good enough to warrant having an 8. Like 7's the highest rating any of our players have got, and there is one more. You can probably guess. 1-7 left to go in this side, but yeah, Alex Iwobi 7 for me. And then moving on into the attack, Anthony Gordon. Is it his last game for Everton? I don't know. Obviously, that video of him applauding the Gladys Street doesn't send off the best message, particularly when he was by himself at the start. And there was quite a bit of hostility towards him today. It's got to be said. Obviously, there was no booing his name or anything like that, or anything too malicious like that. But he didn't have his best game today, Anthony Gordon. It's got to be said. His decision making needs a lot of work. We gave the ball away a lot, ran into a lot of dead ends. And yeah, I've given him a 5, and I think it's very harsh for those who are saying, "Oh, he didn't look harsh," because he's probably already agreed a deal with Chelsea or rubbish like that. I don't believe that. Not Anthony Gordon, not for me. But yeah, I just don't think it was his best performance today. If anything, I actually think at first, particularly the first half an hour, I think he was trying too hard to go off on a high note or whatever, or maybe being a bit too greedy or whatever. Which again, like I say, leads to wrong decisions. Yeah, that's all I've really got to say on Gordon tonight. I don't want to lay into the lad. I wish him well if that is his last Everton game. I can't really see it working out for him at Chelsea, but if he leaves, that's not our concern anymore. We take the money and run. Um, but yeah, that's all I've really got to say on Anthony Gordon. So Damari Grey, yeah, I feel a bit bad about this one because up until he scored his goal, I thought he was really, really frustrating me. Because again, it's an odd one because he was our most dangerous player on the pitch today by a margin, and yet I thought he was playing really badly. I think again, similar to Gordon, making the wrong decisions a lot. He shoots too often. I think he is quite a selfish player, Damari Gray. I think he shoots when he should pass, and then when he does pass half the time, it's not good enough. And yet, I don't know. Once he scored the goal, and once we got the draw because of how well Damari Gray took his goal, I kind of softened, and I ended up giving him a 7. Um, and I think that just has to be down to like I say, he was by far the player who looked like if we were going to score, it was going to be through him, and obviously that's what ended up being the case. He was trying a lot of stuff. There was a lot of times where he was running at the Forest defence, causing them problems. He has got electric pace. Don't I? There's no two ways about it. And just running at defences causes them issues. So yeah, I think Damari Gray. I have been frustrated with him to start the season. It's got to be honest, and I probably wouldn't have started him today for me, but it ended up being the right decision, that one. One of the few decisions I think Lampard got right today, which again we'll get into once we get onto the subs. But yeah, a 7 for Damari Gray, and then with the last of the starters, Salomon Rondon. Again, an odd one because I wouldn't have taken him off despite how crap I think he was playing. You can't really sugarcoat it for me. A liability. He is a liability. It's like he wasn't involved in the game in the first half hour whatsoever. I don't. He hardly had a touch. Wasn't providing that focal point we need. No one for Pickford to pick out until the end of the first half and the start of the second. But that's too late at that point, and he was clearly taken off due to fitness issues and the fact that he hasn't got 90 minutes in the tank. That's a liability. He's the only striker we've got left for the club, and I know that's not his fault, but the amount of money he's being paid, he's got to be giving more than that. And there was one in particular I have to bring this up because I could not believe when I was saying there was one bit. It might have been, I think it might have been Mikalenko. It was definitely from the left hand side when we were attacking the park end in the first half. Mikalenko send the ball up to him. He shrugs the defender off. Does that really good thing where he backs into them while he's facing away from where the goal we're attacking is. Shrugs the defender off so he gets that extra yard of space and gets onto the ball. Lets it bounce, and the defender beats him to it. The defender he is knocked out of the way, and so he's got that extra yard on him. The guy makes up the extra yard. That is not good enough. That's for a Premier League standard. That is not good enough. And I still wouldn't have taken him off just because I thought he was getting into the game, and if he'd had that extra 10 minutes, he might have been able to have more of an effect in the game, I guess. Obviously, he had that chance just a few minutes before we got taken off. But yeah, he can only get a 5 for me because, like I say, it's just not not providing what we need, which isn't necessarily his fault, and it just hammers home how much we need a top quality striker more. And hopefully the club realise that after that. But yeah, moving on to the subs. Like I said at the start, I think I'm giving them ratings based on if they were starting. I think because they were given more than half an hour on the pitch, and it's pretty easy for me. I'm giving them both 5s. Anana, again, I have a bit of sympathy because I don't think he's fit, and obviously it's not his fault that Lampard put him on when he probably shouldn't have. Especially replacing Davis, which, as I've mentioned, I wouldn't have taken off. And he got booked in 2 minutes. Got caught out in midfield, tried to make up for it, and ends up giving the yellow card away. And giving away silly fouls throughout the game, really. Reckless, and not really providing that defensive stability that we were kind of promised, you know, the money we paid for him. And obviously, he's still a young lad, and like I say, not fit yet. You know, I'm sure he recognises he's far from at his best at the moment. So I don't want to lay into him too much, but I have to give him a 5 based on that performance. And McNeil gets the same. He's very slow, isn't he? I don't think we'd really realise that. Well, that's not exactly what we maybe were expecting. But based on the fact he came on and was our freshest leg up front, looked like he'd been on the pitch all game, didn't he? Yeah, just not quick enough off the mark compared to when you compare him to Gray or Gordon. Again, I have a bit of sympathy. He's being played out of position. Don't know what. I know. We've said about Gordon being no good up front, and you know you can't imagine Gray being much better. But why take London off then? Do you know what I mean? It should like if I genuinely the decisions from the manager, but he's genuinely the worst bit of today. And you know I'm not one of these like Lampard out through or anything like that, and far from it. But if the manager gets something wrong, the manager gets something wrong. You have to. You can't just twist it. Just like it's not an agenda or anything like that. You take each game as it comes. You know, sit line like you know you base your ratings not based on anything else, just based on their performance in this game. And yeah, if I was rating Lampard's decisions, it would have got a lower rating than any of the players got. But even so, McNeil, I have to talk about the corner as well. The corner that didn't even make it onto the pitch, or if it did, it went straight back out. Massive waste. I can't even remember if we'd equalised by that point, but I think we had. So, massive waste. So yeah, I don't know. You kind of want to wait until the window's over before you really start judging the side, and yet the Villa game in particular feels like massive points drop. They were crap again today against Crystal Palace. The crap again on the first week of the season against Bournemouth, and yet they've picked up 3 points to get their season up and running against us last week. And today, I know we didn't do enough to win this game, but neither did Nottingham Forest, you know, and they were very, you know, they're only a few minutes away from coming away with 3 points. They didn't do enough to do it. They didn't. I'm sorry. Even playing a system that we're not accustomed to, not having a lot of our first choice players fit, we still should have been beating Nottingham Forest today. So there are concerns. There's also small signs of encouragement, and you know, with the right players in the setup, maybe we'd be a bit better. But I don't know. I'm not infused. It's got to be said. Today was not a great game. It hasn't been a great start to the season. Who knows? Fleetwood on Tuesday. Hopefully, you know, you'd like to think we win there, no matter what side we bring. Maybe that can get confidence going. But I do think Brentford away is going to be a tough one. You know, next league match on Saturday. But yeah, I think that's where we're going to leave it. To be honest, please leave a like if you enjoyed. Comment giving your thoughts, giving your ratings on each player. In the description, I'm sure there'll be many sources for debate over the likes of, particularly the likes of Tom Davis or Rondon or Gordon, of course. We'll of course be making a lot of headlines after that performance. But yeah, like I say, leave a like, subscribe to the Toffee Blues if you're not already for more Everton content, and we will see you in the next one. Cheers.